let's go ahead and get started with our presentation today. So if you
Awesome.
haven't met me, I'm Katie Erickson. I'm the marketing director here at Boyer. And then we have with us Joanna, who is going to be our presenter. She's our training consultant. Joanna, I'm going to hand it over to you for the presentation. We are excited.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Uh, I would assume most of y'all know who Boyer is, but maybe this is your first time working with us, attending one of our webinars. So we wanted to do a little introduction to who we are as an organization. FYI, it's our birthday. We have been in business 30 years this year. We are headquartered out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, but we have consultants all across the US. And again, we are a growing company. We've got 450 active clients that we work with. Maybe some of you are some of our clients, and we really work on helping folks migrate to the cloud. We are one of the top 5% Microsoft partners, helping people migrate themselves into the cloud. And another fun tidbit fact of Boyer: 1 in every 5 of our clients is a nonprofit. So we help a lot of nonprofits too. One of our main things that we pride ourselves on is understanding the importance of connected data, so that way it can empower you as an organization to run more efficiently. So the expertise that we bring is to help you seamlessly integrate your systems together so you can reap those benefits of real-time data, also all of the cool embedded AI stuff that we see coming from Microsoft, and again, coupling that with your unique business needs. That's who we are. That's what we want to help you do. So thanks for joining us today. I do have an agenda for us, and it's going to be jam-packed. And so I wanted to give y'all my email address too, just in case there are questions and we don't get to them or things along those lines. Feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any follow-up questions that you have. A couple of things that I want to highlight. Again, we're going to email you this deck after the presentation, so you'll get that. I also want to highlight the release planner. It's been around for a couple of years now. But I really think it's a great tool. I've been around in the Microsoft space for a while now. It's always hard around these release waves to like keep track of everything that's happening. So the release planner, if you aren't aware of it, is a really cool tool to help you keep track of all of the things that matter to you. Because a lot of things come out in the release, but maybe there's just a couple of things that you're really interested in focusing in on. The release planner will give you a way to do that. So we'll take a look at that. Also, throughout the slide deck, you're going to see links peppered to all the different stuff. So again, if you want a deeper dive or take a little bit more look at some of these release highlights that we're going to go over, that would be great, because we can't cover it all in an hour. So really, I'm going to be focusing on today highlighting what's in general availability right now, also the things that are coming in April and May as we have here. So that's what we're going to focus on and highlight. Again, all of our focus here is going to be around the Power Platform. So we're going to start off, we'll highlight that release planner. We'll talk about some deprecations that are happening. Then we'll focus in on the main pieces of the Power Platform: Power Apps, Power Pages, Power Automate, and Microsoft Copilot Studio, formerly known as Power Virtual Agents. It's being absorbed into this new Microsoft Copilot Studio. So again, I think we're going to see a lot of cool stuff here, especially in Release Wave 2 around some of that fun stuff. Awesome. And then we'll end up talking about Microsoft Dataverse enhancements as well. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is really the release planner. So like I said, this is a great tool. It's been around for, I want to say, a little over a year now, maybe 2 years, but it's just a way to sort of synthesize all of that information that comes out from Microsoft around these release waves that we have. If you're old school and you just want to read it like a book, you can download the PDF that'll have all of the content in it. You'll notice it's also broken down into Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. Now, again, the focus of this session today is going to be all around the Power Platform, but yourself, you can even, flip between those different release notes and focus in again on the enhancements that are coming that you're excited about. Navigation is done on the left-hand side, where you can go into sort of like each topic, each area of the Power Platform, and again, focus in on those release notes. My favorite thing I think about this release planner, again, if you're not using it yet, when I see something that I'm interested in, like I'm really interested in being able to make direct calls to the SQL Server stored procedures, if that's something I'm really excited about, I can click this little plus sign and then add it to my plan. So if you notice at the top of the screen, it says all release plans. So that's all of the details. And then there's my release plan. So I kind of think of it as like a board that I can pin these things. So I can keep my eye on these things. Because as you know, release wave happens, but it takes a while for all of those things to hit the system, and we can follow those and again track those through the release planner. The other thing that you can do here too, I can open that up. I can get into that Microsoft documentation and again pin that or favorite that item and have that in my release plan. So you can always open up those items and again get into more documentation from Microsoft to learn about those features that matter to you. One other thing I'll draw your attention to, up at the top here, there's also some slicers. So you can see what's planned. So things that have not come out yet, the coming soon, things that we expect to drop in this month. And then you also have that try now. So everything that's available right now. Also want to draw your attention to these other filters here. Again, just can help you group this because there's a lot of information in these release plans. So again, it's just a way to help you pinpoint and look at what you are most interested in. So if you're not using that one, I would favorite that one, and it's become kind of my go-to as I sort of, review everything that comes in these release waves. Also, one of my favorite pages is the change history because I love Microsoft, but things change. So if I come to this page, this is a way where I can see any features that have been added to the release. I can see any release dates that changed because maybe I thought it was coming in May and it got pushed to June. So any features that are removed, I'll be able to see all of that from this particular site here. So again, link at the top of the page, and we'll get that link out to you in our deck afterwards. Speaking of going away and changes, let's talk about deprecations. RIP, some things going on here. If you have been around for a while, you may recall some of the classic app form and view designers that we used to use way back in the day, these old designer experiences that you see on the bottom half of my screen. But for the past several years, we've been using our new designers. Now, up at the top of our designers for building apps, forms, and views in Power Apps, we had a button that said Switch to Classic. The Switch to Classic button is going away. Don't panic too hard. If you still want it, you can get it back. I have the link at the bottom there and how you can put it back if you miss it. But really, Microsoft feels like we're at parity here. So what you used to be able to do in the old designers, you should now be able to completely do over here in Power Apps. So that switch to Classic was really just kind of like a stepping stone, really, that, use the new designer. If there's something you can't do in the new designer, you can switch to Classic. So now, really, if you re-enable that switch to Classic button, that's just for old time's sake. You really can use the new designers for your experience in building your apps, forms, and views. And honestly, they're so much better. I don't know why you'd ever want to go back, but if you do, there is the link at the bottom on how you can re-enable that switch to Classic button if you find you are missing it. One other big deprecation to know about is the app for Dynamics 365 phones and tablets. We should be replacing that. So you may have been using that, or you maybe have, users at your organization who are using Dynamics 365 on their phones and tablets. And so that app is being replaced with Power Apps. Oh my gosh, a migration. How do we do this? It's very easy. Have your users or people who are using this app go into your preferred app store, Google Play, Apple, and go download the new Power Apps app. And really, that's what we should be using. I consider it kind of like a wrapper. So like you're still accessing your same Dynamics 365 apps. It's just we're doing it from Power Apps. And also, the Canvas apps and model-driven apps that you've created too. They can access them there. So migration, not a big deal. You'll just have your users remove the old one from their phones and use this one instead. I've also included a link to the user guide. I feel like navigation is very similar to, what you've been using, so it shouldn't be too much of a learning curve. But again, if you want to provide something to your end users who are maybe nervous about using Power Apps as the new app on their phone or tablet, you can share that user guide with them from Microsoft as well. One other thing to know, things that are changing, we can no longer have unregistered MSA or external Microsoft Entra users. So what is changing? If you have Microsoft Entra accounts that aren't registered to your tenant, they will no longer be able to access Dataverse. And in fact, this is a very specific error message that they will see if they were to try to log in. So what we need to do, if you have someone who isn't part of your Microsoft Entra ID and they do need access to a Dataverse organization, you can add that user to your tenant as an external user or a guest user. And so then they can still get access. But we do have to take that extra step and get them set up in Microsoft Entra as that external user or guest user. So again, we have a link here to walk you through that process. If that's something you're getting a weird error message about this, that is probably what is happening to you. All right, so that takes care of our deprecations. So now we're just going to go through sort of module by module, each piece of the Power Platform, and take a look at what is coming. On each of the header slides, again, I have a link to the full release wave for that particular application. We're going to start off with Power Apps. Now, throughout the releases, Microsoft is also going to always tell us, where are the enhancements coming? What are the things that they're really focused on as a part of this release wave? So I wanted to highlight some of those things. If, again, you've been paying attention to Microsoft the past year, Copilot, always a big deal. So Copilot for makers and users, being able to use Copilot and helping us build our apps, and also for our users using our apps, that's going to be a big piece in some of these release wave enhancements that you're going to be seeing. Always about building modern apps, making sure it's easy. We have modern controls and we have responsive layouts. So again, we can have seamless, beautiful apps that we can build for our users. Also, a big focus in this release wave is about making everything scalable. So makers and admins can build and scale apps across their entire organization. Again, with a focus on kind of guardrails and tools to ensure quality and security, always going to be a focus with Microsoft as well. So if we take a look at that what's new and planned list, again, remember, I'm going to be focusing on the green checks, the things that we already have, also the things that are coming. So if you see, we have kind of 3 things that we should be expecting in April here. I did take these screenshots like a couple weeks ago, so we may have some more green checks here. So I'll highlight again the things that are happening in April and May here. So one of the first ones that I'm so excited about is the ability to use Copilot to help me build a Canvas app. I can use natural language. Again, I feel like building model-driven apps pretty easy, drag and drop, but Canvas apps a little bit more tricky. And so now I can use Copilot to help me. I can use my prompt suggestions of things like add a button to my header, change the container to align center, change all of my labels and font to size 18. So really speeding up that process of having to build a Canvas app. Canvas app's a little bit more involved, right? I have to, design my buttons, decide what they're going to point to. So again, I think being able to use natural language and Copilot here is really going to help us iterate faster and build those Canvas app experiences more quickly. Again, if you want to learn more about that, link is at the bottom of the slide there. One other cool thing that is coming for model-driven apps is the ability for us to have Copilot within our model-driven app. So again, Copilot is going to be that AI assistant that helps us gain insight into our data using natural language. So this is going to be for your end users to understand, and ask questions of the data that they see within our model-driven app. So as you can see, you can even do things like ask it to navigate you to a certain page. There's also this ability, if you do a little forward slash, you can pick a specific record and then ask questions about that specific record. So that's what it looks like here. So basically I'm saying, take me to this challenges area that we have within our application. And I want to see what are the ideas associated with this particular record. When we put that little slash there and put that name of the record there, Copilot has a better chance to answer the question of what I'm looking at. It knows what data I'm interested in looking at here. So again, an enhancement we can add into our model-driven apps so our end users can start using that natural language conversation with Copilot, again, to drill into that data and work with what we have within our model-driven app. Really cool functionality. This one I also think is pretty cool. We're going to talk more about this. You may have noticed for probably about the past 6 months or so, maybe even a year now, up at the top when you're using a model-driven app, there's that little slide bar that says, try the new look and feel. The new look and feel is here. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later. But if you have that new look and feel enabled on, we now have the ability to get help filling out our forms. So again, AI is going to help us. You know, Joanna, you kind of type in the same thing in these fields over and over again. So it's going to make suggestions for me. So you can see up at the top, anything that's a suggestion on the form that I'm filling out will be highlighted in blue. So it's like, okay, you normally fill out this field this way. So let's say that booking status field where it says confirmed. I am going to set that up as confirmed. So I can click in there and then there's a little checkbox there and I can say yes. So it's not sort of forcing me to take those suggestions. I still get to say, yes, that is correct, AI. I do fill this field out that way many times. So again, this is something that's available if you're in that new look enabled environment, you've got that going on in your model driven app. This is a cool enhancement that we have available now. All right, let's move on to building modern apps, again in Power Apps here. And we've got only one green check here, but we've got some cool things coming in April. So again, things that we should expect to see this past month here. One thing is with that mobile experience, people using the mobile app, we now have some more options for syncing our data if we are working offline, if we allow our users to work offline with the data in the mobile app. So users now have a couple of setting options for them. If you go into your app, there'll be a little icon in the lower corner. It looks like a little cloud when you are connected. You can click on that and you can decide what do I want to have with my data syncing? So Wi-Fi only, let's users choose if they sync when they're on a cellular network or if just Wi-Fi only. And then you also have the ability to decide if you want to turn on auto sync. So you can adjust the interval of how often your data is syncing back and forth when you're using that mobile app. You might be offline, so you can change that interval. You could also decide to turn auto syncing off and you only want to sync on demand. You'll decide when you're going to sync your data. So those are some cool options available now. So like I was saying, there is the new look and feel for our model-driven apps. For the longest time, it's been a little switch bar. You can decide if you wanted to use the new one or not. We're here, it's ready, you should be using it. So a lot of it is just about visibility. It adds some drop shadows to things. I would say the coolest thing in views is you have kind of this auto scroll. So again, that look and feel, not a preview anymore, going to end up being the default during this release wave. So this is what our modern model-driven apps are going to look like. Some things of note, you can see the command bar has kind of a drop shadow behind it. One of my favorite, the check boxes of selecting records are visible now. And like I said, when you're in a view, you have kind of that endless scroll option. When you're on forms, again, you see it's a very subtle change. It's again more drop shadows, giving a little bit more. Kind of looks like everything is sort of hovering above the page. So again, just an updated look and feel that is here now and ready to start using. One other thing to note, I think Microsoft is pushing for more monthly updates instead of the twice a year annual updates, which still kind of have like a monthly cadence to them. So if you were to make a new model-driven app today, when you go into the settings for that model-driven app, you can decide what you want that cadence to be. Do I want to move to that monthly channel or do I want to stay with what we currently have, which is that semi-annual update that we have? So by default, if you make a new app, it's going to be set to monthly. Now I can still go in and I could change that. So I can go into my app. So again, I pulled this documentation from Microsoft that says, you know, Monthly channel is nice that if there are updates or things impacting user features, once a month it's going to be sort of these monthly updates. And honestly, the Customer Insights Journeys app and data already are on this monthly cadence. So I see Microsoft again kind of moving towards more of this monthly cadence instead of the semi-annual cadence we have now. But if you want, you can still keep it at that semi-annual cadence. You would switch your app release instead of auto. We would leave that at semi-annual then. And so again, it's the twice a year updates. And again, those updates are going to drop in starting in April and then going through to September. And then wave 2 will be October throughout to the next spring. So again, something I feel like Microsoft is moving to more. All right. For the Power Apps Enable Enterprise at Scale, we have a few green checks here of some things that are available now. So one of them is about pipelines. If you're not familiar with pipelines, it's a way to help me with my application lifecycle management, moving things from dev to test to prod. We can set up pipelines to do that. The creation of pipelines has been streamlined a little bit here. So we can set up pipelines in about 60 seconds now. So again, some enhancements here in setting up those pipelines. We also see new makers can have their own dev environments. I think this is really cool. Oftentimes I want to, maybe have somebody help me build something, but they're new to Power Apps. They haven't really used it before. I don't necessarily want to have them in our sandbox environments. We can now direct them to their own environment. So again, this can be a great way for people who want to grow their skills in Power Apps and not really muck with anything else that's going on. They can have their own development environment where they can practice building all of the Power Apps kind of functionality and Power Platform functionality. So new makers, again, can have their own development environment, which I think is pretty cool. We also have the ability to make direct calls to SQL stored procedures. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit more. You can also use Power FX when we're using Power Automate. So we'll come back and talk about that a little bit more too. So some exciting stuff there. Let's talk about Power Pages next. Again, the link here will get you to that entire list of everything that's in the release waves. But what we're focusing on with the investment here from Microsoft is on Power Pages. Oh, look, there's generative AI and Copilot again. So no surprise there. Again, we're going to be able to use Copilot to help us build our Power Pages, our websites that we're building. Again, hopefully expediting the steps of building out our websites. Also, a focus is going to be data connectivity, the ability to have Power Pages continue to connect to other data sources, more data sources. So again, we can enrich these sites that we're building with some data from outside sources. Again, we're going to see a lot about collaborating with low code and pro dev tools. So whether you're a low code maker like Joanna or a pro developer, again, we can use some of this functionality in Power Pages, again, to collaborate. So you can get the best skill set from everybody on your teams as you're sort of collaborating together and building these Power Pages together. Again, another key investment is always going to be around security and governance as well. So Power Pages and Copilot, we don't have any green checks here yet. We do have a couple of things we can look forward to this month in May that are coming in public preview. So things we can test out before they become generally available. So the first one is going to be website users will be able to get information and insights from Copilot when they're asking questions in natural language in one place. So basically, I can go to my Power Pages page and we can embed Copilot within our websites too. And so now my people visiting my website have the ability, instead of searching, to use Copilot and the Copilot chatbot and natural language experience in order to find the information on our website. And again, that information is going to be structured and secure. So you could imagine a scenario where maybe we have a customer service website and someone could come there and ask Copilot what the status of their open case is. And again, it's going to use that security, that context of the person asking the question, and deliver that information about their case, which is really kind of cool functionality. So that's something we can look forward to being available in May. Power Pages users can review AI-generated summaries to quickly understand search topics and discover options for further exploration, again with AI-generated prompts. So global search functionality in Power Pages is really going to enable people to find records across multiple tables. They'll be searchable across all the fields within those tables. Again, generative AI is going to improve that search experience for people using our website. So those are some things we can look forward to in May. Now, here we do have a couple of green checks about virtual tables. I've got a slide on that. We'll talk about that next. The other thing that we see here that is coming in April, so something that we should have now, the ability to perform website actions using Power Platform CLI. CLI is going to be for pro developers, adding support for website creation and delete operations using Power Platform CLI, CLI being command line interface. So what this is going to allow our pro developer friends on the call to be able to do is have some of that lifecycle management again for your Power Pages sites. So again, you can streamline you'll be able to build scripts, develop CI and CD flows, automate some of your deployments of your sites as well. So that's something that we can expect to be available now too. So a little bit about virtual tables. If you've been around the Dataverse space for a while, virtual tables, not a new concept, but the concept behind them is my data lives somewhere else, but I want it to be displayed here in Dataverse. Well, that same concept is now being applied here in Power Pages. So I can create virtual tables that I don't need to move my data anywhere. I can basically just point to that data without needing data replication. So my solutions, apps, flows can use virtual tables as if they are native Dataverse tables. I'm basically creating a connection with these. So now I can use virtual tables to use full create, read, update, and delete privileges. Again, I can use these virtual tables to hold data from SQL Server, SharePoint, Microsoft Fabric, Salesforce, again, and use that data when we're working with our Power Pages. For the security and governance piece, not a lot of green checks here. We do have a couple of features that are a feature here that'll be generally available in May. So I would expect that within the next month here. So with this feature, we can enable a web application firewall. And so this will be for website protection against a wide range of cybersecurity threats, including SQL injection, cross-site scripting, so again, we have this web firewall available for us to use now, and again, protect our sites that we're creating. All right, let's talk about Power Automate. There's a lot of really cool stuff here coming in Power Automate. Again, the focus around the Power Automate applications here, we're looking for easier experiences to build, troubleshoot, and manage automation. So Copilot, yet again, not a surprise here. I'm most excited about this because I'll be real. I'm not the best at Power Automate, but I feel a lot more confident when I have Copilot with me and some of these new features that we have here, building my confidence with using Power Automate for sure. So I'm excited to see more enhancements here around this. Again, focusing on ensuring scalability and privacy, Power Automate continues to simplify large scale management. And again, always going to be about governance and privacy. Making sure that's top priority is always going to be a focus for Microsoft. I also love seeing the democratization of process mining. So again, using AI to recommend actionable insights, additional out-of-the-box capabilities, and deep integrations with supply chain management for doing some cool things with process mining. Again, so folks like Joanna, who don't have that developer background, can start doing some really cool things with the help of AI and Copilot. So a lot of things are coming in Power Automate for Cloud Flows. The font is probably really tiny on my screen right now. So lots of cool things coming. We have a few green checks, so let's take a look at those. For a while, we've had this Dataverse legacy connector, and this is something that Microsoft has put us on notice that they are deprecating. So again, it's something they want to receive parity with that old connector in order to use the new Microsoft Dataverse connector. So we're taking another step closer to that parity. We now have the ability using the new Microsoft Dataverse connector to put in environment parameters. So that's really helpful when I have, as you can see in my screenshot here, we have Contoso's tenant. So Contoso is the company here, and they have multiple environments with Dataverse databases there. And so they want to create an automation and a flow that will say when a new record or a row is added into Contoso support, I need my flow to interact with a couple of other environments that we have, Dataverse Contoso services and Dataverse Contoso field service. I need my flow to connect across multiple environments. Again, that was something we were only able to do with that legacy connector, but now this is parity. This is something that is coming that we can now do with the new Dataverse connector. So again, another step moving everything over to that Microsoft Dataverse connector that we have. We also have the ability to push Cloudflow execution data into application insights. So a lot of times with flows, I have to go to the Power Automate flow in order to see how it's performing, check in on them. Now we can do some things to push that Cloudflow execution data into application insights. And from there, now we can do some advanced monitoring, I should say, and maybe some alerts if some of my automations are failing. Again, I can push some of that execution data there so I can keep a better eye on it and just have those alerts if something is going wrong. So a nice enhancement coming here too. This is something interesting. Cloud flows can now be defined as part of a Dataverse solution, which means those cloud flows can now be solution aware. So when we are making a new cloud flow, it can be solution aware, meaning that it now again will know environment variables, the connection references it needs. It can know about other things in the solution and child flows that are maybe required for this flow to run. Again, now all of this is possible with these solution aware cloud flows that we can create. Here's where I get most excited. Copilot, please help me with Power Automate. So we have some cool green checks here. Let's talk about these. One, we can use Copilot to help us with scripting. Scripting is not my strong suit. So again, we have the ability to have Copilot help us out here. You can enhance your efficiency, save some time by, again, using natural language and AI to generate the code and the script that I'm looking for my Power Automates for desktop. So I can describe my desired script and again, reduce that time and effort it takes to writing out the code. I can use this script and I can have Copilot and AI help me. So again, this can simplify tasks for things like running PowerShell, VB and CMD scripts, executing SQL statements as well. This is something that I think is really cool too. As somebody who's not that great at Power Automate, it was a lot of Googling and going to other places and, putting in tickets to Microsoft. How do I do this? Now we have Copilot here, so I can ask my new best friend, Copilot, how do I do this in Power Automate? And so the answers functionality, I can easily find the information that's needed to, again, create and manage these flows that I am creating. Copilot is going to be the expert. So I don't have to, again, sort of do these frantic Google searches. I have it right here. I can just talk to my buddy Copilot. We can figure this out together. We can also streamline workflow creation with next best action. So this has to do with getting some AI suggestions again with Power Automate for desktop. So it can give me some next best actions for the workflows that I'm creating. So it's always going to be looking at what I'm building and analyzing my workflow and suggesting maybe this is the next step that you should think about doing. So again, it's a way to sort of enhance my process for building out my automations and for being able to take those feature suggestions and add them into context with that workflow. And again, be able to build that workflow with those suggestions. So maybe I can do some things a little bit more complex than I was thinking they would need to be, or I wasn't thinking about how to make them more complex. So again, using my buddy Copilot to give me some analysis here, and then adding in those next best actions for my automations. Let's talk about desktop flows. Again, lots of great things coming. We have 3 green checkboxes here, so let's talk about those. I mentioned Power FX earlier. We see Power FX is going to be there in Power Apps. We also have it available for us here in Power Automate. So if you're not familiar, Power FX is a low code language for, again, expressing logic and things that I want to execute across the Power Platform. So again, I can use this language, and now we can use this language. We were using it when we were building Canvas apps. Now we can also use it over here in our desktop Power Automate flows that we're creating as well. So again, this is a way to get the best and the brightest in the room, people who maybe have the business acumen, but not necessarily the code background. Again, we can use Power FX here, again, to collaborate with our professional developers. And again, get some of those Power Automate desktop flows rolling using that Power FX language as our low code language as we're building these things. This one I'm pretty excited about. I think this is really cool. We can set up our credentials for our desktop flows to be in Azure Key Vault. So what that means is if an admin goes in and changes the passwords for our credentials, the Windows machine that retrieves the last credentials at runtime. So it's always going to keep us connected, even if that password changes. So they'll keep running successfully. Otherwise, before, when the password changed, my flows were failing. So again, this is a way to avoid that using this Azure Key Vault credential functionality, which I think is pretty slick. We also have the ability to view attended desktop flows by running picture-in-picture execution mode. What that means as a maker is I can trigger an attended local desktop flow, and I can also use the picture-in-picture mode. So what that means is I can watch my Power Automate in a little screen on my desktop while I can continue using my desktop, and then I can look in that virtual window and see what's going on there. So again, this is some cool functionality available to us now. The last piece was about process mining. And so we no longer have to transform or port our data over in a specific source for process mining. Instead, Power Automate process mining can just connect directly to that existing data pipeline in our Azure Data Lake. So again, this is some functionality we can expect here. I don't see a green check on it yet, but should be coming here soon. Microsoft Copilot Studio. So this is kind of a big one. Part of the Power Platform has been Power Virtual Agents. You don't hear them talking about that anymore. It has not gone away. The Power Virtual Agents, or the chatbot functionality, if you will, of Power Platform is being absorbed into the larger Microsoft Copilot Studio. Copilot's getting all the attention, so it's kind of going to absorb this chatbot functionality. So again, I would say watch this year, and especially in release wave 2, a lot of things coming for Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio is going to allow me to build not only my chatbots, also help me build some other cool AI infused functionality, build my own chatbots, things along those lines. So again, that functionality is going to be an exciting space. I feel like we're going to see a big explosion here for a lot of stuff in that Copilot Studio. One thing that is really cool with our chatbots that we were building, now we can build them in multiple languages. So what we can do here is we can create our own logic using PowerFX again to choose which sources to use for a given request with our chatbot. We can use global variables, like maybe where the person is located, and it will know the right language to use. So the Copilot will take the request that someone is maybe writing out in one of these languages that I have listed on the slide, And it can return responses in that same language. So someone asks a question in French, it can return responses in French, provided the data source that I've connected my chatbot to has answers in French, right? So again, it is a way to have multiple support for languages with our chatbots being kind of native, again, using our Copilot Studio here. So really cool functionality. Our last few slides together here, we're going to be focusing on Dataverse, or as I like to refer to it, the engine that drives our Power Platform. One thing that is cool and kind of a buzzkill is the ability to block unmanaged customizations. Again, if you've been around for a while, back in the day, people could go into the default solution and start making changes, which is not a great best practice. It was just what happened. So Microsoft, in looking to block this, has given us a switch now to block the ability for people to go into the default solution and make customizations. That's all great, but I will tell you the caveat right now is if you turn this on today, there's a lot of things that are going to stop working in your environment then. So I don't know that I would necessarily recommend it. Like, I'm excited, like, yes, I don't want people building in my default solution, but at the same time, it has some big ramifications right now. Now, if I look in my Microsoft crystal ball, I have to believe that they're going to work on this and fix this. But for right now, if I were to turn this switch on, all of my Power Automate desktop flows will no longer work. If you're using the field service application, the resource scheduling optimization will no longer function. If you're using customer service, if you have automatic record creation rules set up, those will fail and no longer work. If you're still using old Dataverse workflows, back in the day workflows, those will stop working. Sales Accelerator functionality stops working. Our data flows, if you're using customer insights journeys, your real-time journeys will no longer work. So I think we've got some work to do here. Cool functionality in theory, but I would probably wait to turn that on, especially if we're relying on some of this functionality for some of the things that we're doing. So I'm cautiously optimistic this will be a great thing once we get these other pieces figured out. Now, one cool thing that we can do here with Dataverse is using Copilot to ingest data from SharePoint. So when I go to build an app, I can start again using Copilot to help me build my app. And now I can also start to build an app from data. And one of the options that I will see here is to create an app from SharePoint lists. So again, I can ask Copilot, and with just a few clicks, I can now create a new table in Dataverse that's going to bring in that data from my SharePoint list. And again, it'll be ready and scalable for me to use as I start building an app around it. We also have the ability for getting Microsoft Fabric data, and that can be available and surfaced in Power Apps as well. So we can, again, bring your data into Microsoft Fabric to combine, reshape, aggregate data with data from Dataverse, and I can use those Fabric tools like SQL, Spark, and data flows to work with that data within Fabric. So again, maybe we're going to combine our financial data from Dynamics 365 with financial data from another system and then get some consolidated insights there. Maybe I want to merge some historical data from the OneLake from legacy systems with current business data from Dynamics 365 and Dataverse. Maybe I want to combine my web logs and telemetry data, again, if we're using field service, with website, product, and order details from Dynamics 365. So again, applying machine learning and detecting anomalies with exceptions within our data, all of that is going to be possible, and we can get and surface that Microsoft Fabric data within our Power App. So really powerful functionality here too. This is one that's minor, but kind of makes me happy. So since the dawn of time, or at least as long as I've been using it since 2013, you could only have one activity tied to one regarding record. That is something that is going to change in Dataverse and has changed in Dataverse and is generally available now. Activity records like emails, appointments, and tasks and calls can now be associated with additional records. So it doesn't have to be just one regarding record. I could have this appointment be tied to a contact and an account and an opportunity all at the same time, I could put those regarding records in all of those. So again, those are exciting things that are going to be coming with associating an activity with multiple records. And we are nearly done with our session together, and there's just a lot more on the Power Platform. I didn't get into AI Builder, Governance and Administration, and Pro Development, our other sections that I would say are worth reviewing in those release notes. So again, I'd recommend if you're not using that release planner yet, like we were talking about at the top of the hour, get in there, start reviewing it, and again, maybe looking through the documentation on these other topics that are available. As Katie was also mentioning at the beginning of the hour, this doesn't even touch our Dynamics 365 apps. We're just talking Power Platform. So again, we will get that word out to you in June. Look for another webinar where we'll dig into, what's the functionality in sales, customer service, customer insights journeys, and probably fundraising and engagement. We'll talk about all of that. In the meantime, you also don't have to wait for me. Have the link there for you to get into the release wave plans just around Dynamics 365. I've got that link on the slide here for you too. Also wanted to give you all my email address. If there was anything we talked about on the call and you're like, I'd like to know a little bit more, can you point me at this? Would be happy to help you out with that. And again, I will be emailing out this deck to all of you. So I would like to say thanks everyone for joining. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll be in touch.